It's almost the end of the week for you, but for many others, it's time to listen to Debate Amongst Friends. I am your host, D, Professor John Gotti, the king of RNG, the troll master, the data analyzing ninja, the conqueror of my own fate, the newly formed cleaner and terminator. That guy over there, freshly squeezed podcasting beast, the reigning, defending, undisputed Troll King himself, the Booker Man, Dr. God. And how are you doing today, sir?
The best damn podcasting machine. Prof. Tranquilo?
I am the least hype machine. I'm ready to get started.
It did.
Over the last 24 hours since we last talked. And let's get ourselves started. Someone else got the bag. And it's kind of scary that it was Terry, whose last name is Rozier. We got a 4-year, $97 million extension with the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, he's been wanting money. He's been wanting it for the past few years.
He has.
He kind of got it. I
guess, yeah. I would say this is what Schroeder wanted, right? And I would say that Schroeder, to me, is a slightly better player than Rozier. And the fact that Rozier got it and Schroeder settled, and maybe that's the key word, he settled for the position in Boston when there seemed to have been money still out there for him. But yeah, Rozier has been kind of in the shadows of some other great players, obviously Kemba Walker at one point in time. And now in Charlotte, I'm really surprised they gave him the deal, especially with a young ball currently unstable. It looks like he's going to be a stud. And they also have a couple other guards there. So I'm actually pretty surprised at this move.
Yeah, well, I don't know if quite a few people added to the roster, of course, including Kelly Oubre Jr., as we talked about before. And it's funny that you mentioned that other point guard, because this is where trying to bet on yourself go wrong. Now, there's times where it works and there's time where it doesn't work. And fortunately, this is the case. The problem, and I think this is where the disconnect is, I don't think Terry Rozier was asking for a ghastly number.
Mm-mm.
And Dennis Schroeder was asking for the whole bank, thinking that he's a top 5 point guard in the league. And he's not.
Mm-mm.
This is what happens when you have people gassing you up and making you believe something that is obviously not the truth.
I can agree with that. And I think that it's interesting. That's why I think it's interesting that Rozier got the money, this particular contract, exactly, because I believe this is exactly what Schroeder was asking for. I think it was $100 million. Him and maybe
it was a little bit more than $100 million.
And if he would have just kind of settled on something like this, and again, if you're going to settle, why settle for pretty much a vet minimum contract, or I wouldn't even say vet minimum. I would say a player minimum contract, $5-6 million, when you know you could at least got 10 to 15, or you could have just stayed with the Lakers and pretty much got this deal. I think actually it might have been in the 80 million range.
It was in the 80s.
But
it was high 80s, low 90s.
It still would have been okay. But again, maybe betting on himself in this situation might not be the wrong thing. I mean, obviously, these Celtics are trying to build something different, so it might work out. But congrats to Terry Rozier for cashing in. I mean, that's awesome. That boy about to get a raise. I mean, you can't be mad at that. I'm interested to see what they're going to do moving forward. If they're going to run that 2-guard set with him and LaMelo Ball. Obviously, you still have Miles Bridges, you have Gordon Hayward, and then you also mentioned, as we mentioned a week ago, Kelly Oubre coming in. So
as well
It's
as
going to be
Miles Bridges as well, who's
Miles Bridges.
is no
Yeah,
slouch for himself.
yeah, I did. I mentioned Miles Bridges, and then they also brought in Ish Smith as well. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of offense Mr. Buego is going to run. But I'm interested to see. I assume it's going to be a pretty fast-paced offense based on the pieces that they have. A little run and gun. They have some really, really young guards, and James Booknight, who had a pretty interesting summer league.
Yep.
Um, so hopefully he can crack some minutes as well. But yeah, Scary Terry gets the bag. But moving on to our next subject here, Vikings linebacker Cameron Smith, who returned from heart surgery, announces retirement. 24 years old. He did miss the 2020 season recovering from that heart surgery, but he has decided that he will forego his NFL career and retire at this time.
It was the right move for him.
Definitely. I
It was
mean,
the right move for him. And we talked yesterday about CTEs and
mm-hmm.
How dangerous that can be in regards to developing young football players. I don't think we really speak a lot about how heart issues can have an impact on not just football, but for every sport, actually. Of course, we know of someone who had, heart issues and passed away from Almada,
Right.
who played basketball for St. Peter's University, formerly known as St. Peter's College. So I think this is a pretty good move. Of course, he did, it was a tough decision because he loves the game of football. He is a former Trojan. But, well wishes to him and, not to sound like that person, but, whatever he decides to do next, I hope he's, successful and happy with what he wants to do next. I'm pretty sure he has some business ambitions that he'll definitely love to explore. I haven't had a chance to hear him interview, but maybe have a pretty good opportunity to get into an analyst role, maybe with like the NFL Network, which would be, pretty nice to see.
Yeah, definitely possible. And you think about it, you play the game of football for, most people minimum of, 15 years, 10 to 15 years. And he says it's been a tremendous part of his life. Obviously, you make a lot of friends, you make a lot of memories. You obviously make a lot of connections. You learn a lot of life lessons through football. But when you're asking your body to do something in order to play a game that is temporary, um, it's a discussion that you have to have not only with yourself, but you got to pray, you got to talk to your friends, your family, your doctors. 'Cause the Vikings medical staff, before they put him out there, they would make sure that he's healthy enough to give his full effort. And at the end of the day,
and I would at least say this: at least the morality of health professionals in the game of football has gotten better.
Right.
Instead of, you need to get out there. A lot I could think about is like the program and Any Given Sunday and Varsity Blues.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Every football movie. Yeah, I agree. And I know I coach on the lower scale, but I always tell my girls as well, like, hey, at the end of the day, you're some people are getting, obviously he's getting paid for this, but for anything that you're getting paid for, something is being paid in, right? So you're putting your body through this toll. Your body's paying the toll. Yes, you're getting paycheck, but your body is paying the toll to receive that money in return. So I definitely have respect, and of course, I wish him well wishes on his future endeavors as he does enter that next chapter of his life. He doesn't say, but I know he went to USC, pretty solid institution of education, not just for football or any sport. But I believe that he'll be just fine. It'll hurt for a little bit, but I believe he'll be fine and realize that, 24, you have a lot of life to live. And he did the right thing for himself. So to Cameron Smith, we wish him the best of luck moving forward with his career. But speaking of careers, one that hangs in the balance as well is that of Deshaun Watson, who has entered into an FBI investigation over the allegations over the winter and spring 2020 and 2021 so far. I felt like news dwindled down. I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago. News kind of dwindled down over the allegations. Not really sure where they were with this. I know the Texans kind of went mum. Mum's the word with this story, and if they were actually going to trade him or not. Yeah, I have no idea where this is, where it's going, why they're just investigating it now. But as of right now, 23 lawsuits have been filed against Deshaun Watson, and 22 are currently still active.
Honestly, until we actually have news to talk about, I mean, we're still at the same spot as before.
Yeah, big time speculation. All he did was add FBI investigating.
Yeah,
which,
and that's pretty much what it is. Like, this is literally the same spot that we're at. Of course, for those that are part of the Justice Society of the Internet, they would say, oh, well, now the FBI is investigating this. Obviously, he did something wrong.
mm-hmm.
If they didn't already think that already, of course.
Of course. But in April, the FBI kind of came and kind of had this discussion. But yeah, at this point,
if it
we're on
was
the same
as
spot.
egregious as it seems, based off of how the articles are writing this, we would hear more. And that's still yet to happen.
Right. And honestly, in this course, this is just my take. I always feel like it's about the money. Some form, some way, there's money involved in this somehow. And it's going to come out eventually. And I'm going to be sitting there like, I get it. But there's no way, 23 lawsuits, you start paying people, then, all of a sudden more people are going to come up. So if he's innocent, I think he should remain innocent. I don't think you should settle anything if that's the case. Keep your innocence if you're innocent. But if you're guilty and you know you're guilty, then that settlement comes in, and that's where we start questioning people's character and so on and so forth. So
unfortunately,
we'll leave that.
His character's already been questioned after the first one came out, and all it takes is one. All the, what you said, 23?
23.
Yeah, all this 23 is doing is, in wrestling terms, it's just burying him further. Yeah. Further and further and further. I will give props to him and his legal team, the fact that he didn't say anything.
He hasn't said a word. And there's been no video of him I haven't seen any video of him at camp.
There's nothing.
Yeah,
people,
it's definitely.
I think one of the accusers alleged they had text messages. That hasn't been shown.
Right.
Nothing has happened yet. So until I see anything, all this is an allegation. Allegation does not equal guilt.
And that's true. And I think that's something that we as a people do need to do better at, as we're quick. Really quick to pull that guilty trigger. Well, real quick before hearing all the facts.
Well, that's because we have so much information thrown at us, 500,000 miles per hour, that people don't take the opportunity to ingest the information to make their own determination. They see it and they believe it now. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of counterintuitive. In the past, people did that because they were reliable news sources. Now it's coming from everywhere. And we talked about this with like one of the NBA offseason with Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
Like data's just getting thrown everywhere. Information. Just
that was
verbatim.
But
like
that
it's
Kawhi
gospel,
thing,
and people
that
believe
was
in you.
rough. Yeah. No, that was rough with the Kawhi thing because you had an analyst literally say, let's not even take Kawhi. Let's go Kevin Durant. Like, you have an analyst literally say, hey, I got called or I got text messages or I heard from Kevin Durant directly,
Nope.
or I heard from Kawhi directly.
Nope.
And he's like,
No, it was always, I heard from a reliable source close within the camp. That's the terminology that they use. And to me, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
Until I hear it from Woj, Shams, maybe Ramona Shelburne. Maybe. She's batting at least a 75 right now. Like it's okay, but like she definitely swung and missed a few times. Nothing against her. I'm just looking based off of how accurate of information you provide. Brian Windhorst is another one.
Of course. I think that's why we stick to Woj. We stick to Adam Schefter. There's a few others that are pretty spot on.
Yeah, Ian Rappaport, Shams, as I've mentioned before. Yeah.
Yeah, Shams is good. Yeah, I think you see those names and you're like, I could probably post this.
And we talked about that with like other realms of sports and sports entertainment. Like, it's just so much information being thrown at people that after a while we become lazy.
Yeah,
and we don't.
If Uncle Dave says something, you can post it most of the time.
And he doesn't say it like it's happening.
Right.
He's like, this is something that I think may happen. He doesn't say, and to quote Charles Barkley, guarantee. Because that's what a lot of these ambulance chasing clickbaiters are doing. Throwing out stuff saying they're guaranteeing this is occurring. And when it doesn't happen, nothing reputable happens to them. So on the off chance these allegations for Deshaun Watson turn out to be false, I want to see the same energy towards those accusers. Now, I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm stating that until we actually see any new developments outside of another authoritative company or an authoritative institution looking into this, this means nothing to John Gotti because there has been nothing new revealed. And anyone saying, well, so-and-so said they had this, where is it? All it is right now is hearsay. And hearsay is not admissible in any court.
Now that's facts. That's all facts. Which, again, I felt like, and I said this yesterday, is mostly all of the news. It's like it's either speculation at this point or it's COVID. That's the news. But speaking of lawsuits and news, we had a first goal scored, something that I felt like should have garnered a lot more attention, and I'm pretty disappointed that this is the first time I'm really hearing about the story, and that's of now 15-year-old Olivia Moultrie yesterday scoring her first professional goal for the Portland Thorns. They defeated the Houston Dash 3-1 on a penalty shootout. Now, apparently, Miss Moultrie, speaking of lawsuits, sued the National Women's Soccer League for not allowing her to play. She was 13 when she signed with Nike, and I guess at that particular point, she sued the NWSL that May because they were prohibiting players from playing under 18, which we know, obviously, from other sports that this has been an ongoing debate. Do you allow players out of high school? Do you have them go to college? And I said earlier before we got on the show, soccer is different, baseball different, hockey different than basketball and football. We've already seen it. Actually, I've never seen it for football. I felt like during my time on Earth, it's always been 3 years of college for football, and basketball for most of my life was you can go straight to from high school, obviously, until there were so many people who just struggled to
Mm-hmm. Well, I think back
transition.
then, a lot with football was it's NFL or bust. Like there wasn't
True.
really much of an alternative option. Like yeah, there was the USFL, and they still have the Canadian
CFL.
League, but
hmm
for a lot of people, like the buck stops with the NFL.
And I would say that at this point, I believe that kids going from high school to college and spending 2 years in a program probably are more equipped than the NBA version when they were going straight to from high school to the NBA, skipping college. They just weren't physically ready.
I would
But
say
now there's
they
so
weren't
much.
mentally ready either.
I would say it's a little column A, a little column B on that one because some of them were mentally ready. It's just you're you're the best player on your high school team, right? And you haven't really played the level of competition. I mean, back then. Now I feel like there's a huge level of competition.
Yeah, there's
And
so
even
many
yeah,
different
oh my
like
God,
side leagues for people to join and whatnot to be able to,
yeah,
get engaged. I mean, they kind of had that too, but I don't think it became as large than it has within like
yeah,
the last 20 years, if we're really going to be honest about it.
yeah. For being honest, so with this particular situation with Moultrie, soccer is different.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, it does take skill, obviously strength, endurance, but if somebody says, "Hey, I want to play tennis and become a professional at a young age," or "I want to play golf and become a professional at a young age," I feel like it's more allowed. Soccer, although it's tough, I think if somebody wants to play it as a younger player instead of going through years and years of training, which they're saying that, hey, she was a young star, a young phenom, right? So it's like if she knows, hey, I want to be a professional soccer player, throw me in there. And a team wants to sign her. Nike's throwing money at her. Once Nike throws money at her, what? She's a professional at that moment.
Yep.
So it's like sign her, get her coached up. Even if you just sign her and similar to what they do in baseball and kind of throw in a development league or development team, she still gets a chance to grow and make money and do something that she loves. So I didn't find an issue with it. I am happy that she scored her first goal though. That's pretty awesome. At 15 years old, that's awesome. And I don't know if you'll ever see an adult player, a professional player, take exception to getting schooled by a 15-year-old. I don't know if that's the case, but
No, honestly,
uh,
competition is competition. Like
exactly.
there's like kids 10 years old that's better than a lot of professionals.
Oh, I agree.
Like because they've literally spent their day to night every single day. Now, whether or not that's child abuse, that's a totally different story and is
It's up to
dependent on
them.
each situation. But
hmm
they have so much skills. The only thing they don't have is the natural athleticism that is gained, through growing up further.
Of course. Of
But if you talk
course.
about just skills, like please, there's a bunch of
Right.
kids that are like really, really good.
hmm So yeah, so here we are, right? You have this 15-year-old um, scoring her first kick, first goal, and hopefully that's first goal of many. Hopefully we see her, playing for years to come. I know when you're playing a game this young and you're starting to make money, sometimes it become less fun. So I'm hoping that she continues to have fun in this game that she just so happens to love and is good at. And I hope to read more about her, honestly. Again, after the Olympics, I believe that my vision and view of sports is growing. I want more international sports play, but I also want to grow in actually watching sports. So that's one thing I'm going to make sure that I do. And she's on my radar now. But I know you heard this podcast on your favorite podcast platform. If you didn't, you can always go to our website at www.debateamongstfriends.com to review this episode as well as all of our previous. Be sure to tune in every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we always deliver the news, the analysis, and the reads.